We are so attracted to people who are authentic. Even if they're completely different than us, we have respect and we have admiration because we all know it takes courage to be authentic. Okay, welcome to episode 27 of the Receive podcast. I am your host, Jenn, and today we're going to be talking about manifesting more by falling madly in love with yourself. So this episode is all about self-love, which is the theme in my community for 2026. And so really when we think about self-love, oftentimes we think about self-care, right? We think about foot massages and we think about going to get a facial and we think about evenings in, but there's so much depth and there's so much beauty when we really start to explore what it means to fall madly in love with yourself. Because as we know, manifestation is all about the universe reflecting back to us what we believe about ourselves. And oftentimes, most of us are walking around with fractured relationships with ourselves. And those are reflected back to us in all of these micro moments that we experience with our partners, with our friends, with our business relationships. And when we can truly create a powerful, healthy, clean relationship with ourselves, where we're truly in love with ourselves, not just tolerating ourselves, not just kind of being a little bit of a bully to ourselves, but actually truly loving ourselves on a deep level, which is very difficult for many people, we create this effortless ability to manifest the things that we want. We become instantly more magnetic. We attract partners. We attract business relationships. We attract opportunities because there's nothing more magnetic than the frequency of love. So I think about this and I think about the frequency of love of when I was first falling in love. So my very first boyfriend that I ever had in high school, and I remember falling in love with him and we were at the movies and he held my hand and I felt this rush of excitement, this amazing feeling of just bliss by the fact that he was simply holding my hand. The thing that we think about love is we think that it's the other person causing those feelings of love. And so we oftentimes externalize that other people are our source of love, when that's actually not true. That is an illusion. We are the source of our own love. All of those feelings I was feeling when he held my hand were me. They came from me and my perception and my understanding and my interpretation of the experience. I could have very easily had different feelings, right? If I didn't like him as much. Those feelings were coming from myself. Our feelings come from ourselves, and we interpret it as if they come from something outside of ourselves. And so when we begin to work on this relationship with ourselves and fall madly in love with ourselves, we become far more magnetic and we are able to generate those positive feelings from within effortlessly and easily. And that is how we elevate our vibration to attract more things into our lives. Oftentimes what happens is people are walking around with shame, with self-judgment, with needing to prove themselves, with feeling like, if only I was further along, if only I was a little better at this, if only I wasn't so harsh on myself. I would say most people have really harsh, strong inner critics that are constantly telling them the things that they should be doing better, the things that they should be doing differently. When that creates hesitation, that creates disconnection. One of the most attractive qualities a person can have is when they are fully present. And this has been shown time and time and time again, that when you are with someone and that person is fully present with you, you're instantly more attracted to them. You're instantly more interested in them. But presence takes not having our mind running in circles. It takes us actually being fully focused on that other person and not focused on ourselves. When we have a harsh inner critic, when we're constantly judging ourselves and thinking of things that we need to do better, we are not loving ourselves. We are actually bullying ourselves and we are not present with other people. We're not present in the present moment. That's one of the amazing benefits of this path to falling madly in love with yourself. This whole idea came to me because I had this experience where I was reading a book and it's called Calling in the One by Catherine Woodward Thomas. And she says this one line and it just struck me when I read this line. And it's that I'm speaking of something deeper than self-care. I'm talking about the actual ways you relate to yourself, the habitual ways you speak to yourself, the ways you respond or not to our own difficult feelings or unwanted needs, the commitments you make or don't make to fulfill your deepest dreams and desires, and the ways you honor or fail to honor your word to yourself. Self-love is not about these fluffy things. It's about the true relationship that we create with ourselves, how we show up for ourselves, how we speak to ourselves internally, how we show up for our dreams, whether we are devoted to our vision or it can kind of happen or it cannot happen. Right? That's the truth of self-love. And so after I read this, I really sat and I reflected and I thought about what are all the ways where I'm not really loving myself as deeply as I can. And I immediately had all these flashes of images of ways that I was judging myself, that I was trying to prove myself, that I was shrinking myself to make others feel comfortable, that I was being harsh with myself internally, right? I was judging my appearance. I was judging my actions. I was judging the social media content I would put out. It created this hesitation. It created this shame within myself, right? Shame is this belief that there's something wrong with me. And when we're constantly judging ourselves, we create this ball of shame within ourselves. The issue with that is shame not only feels like crap, but it's very heavy. It's a heavy, dense energy. On the scale of consciousness, it's at the bottom. It's heavy and it weighs us down. It makes us difficult for us to manifest the things that we want in our lives. It makes it difficult for us to create the things that we want to create. And so self-love is the antidote to that. When you're able to look at the things that you have cast out within yourself, the things that you judge, the things that you say that are not enough, and you choose to love yourself anyway, you choose to love those things about yourself, you choose to have compassion for those things about yourself, then what happens is you elevate your energy instantly. You elevate into these higher vibrational emotions. You become more magnetic. People want to be around you. Opportunities are attracted to you. Clients are attracted to you. And that's what happened for me. So I took myself through my own work. I took myself through my own vault of subconscious rewiring sessions, through my own meditations, through all of the things that I teach. And it was like I elevated within the matter of even after doing this for a week, for 2 weeks, I felt like a completely different person. And I saw people responding to me differently. I saw people wanting to talk to me more, wanting to come up to me, people saying hi to me at the grocery store, more opportunities coming to me, clients wanting to work with me for longer and longer periods of time, new clients coming to me and saying, I was just attracted to your energy, because we are attracted to love. That is our true frequency. That's the frequency that we resonate with the most. And so when we operate out of love, it's easy oftentimes for us to love other people. It's easy for us to see the good in other people, right? It can oftentimes not be so easy to do that with ourselves, but we have to do it with ourselves or we cap our ability to love others, to do those kinds of things for others. So that was a longer intro than I had really planned, but I want to share with you really kind of the core pieces that I looked at. And I want to give you some of the practices for you to help cultivate this relationship of self-love within yourself. I will be doing a challenge around this in February. So be sure to check me out on Instagram at Alignment with Jenn. We're going to be doing a self-love related challenge to cultivate this and really turn this into a practice. So the first thing I noticed with myself that made a really big difference on this journey was beginning to practice self-adoration, self-appreciation, self-valuing, self-celebration. So what is that? It is becoming your own biggest cheerleader. Oftentimes, we will look for other people to validate us, right? That's kind of what we've been taught. We go to our teacher to see what grade we got, to see, okay, was this good enough? And that's the school system we're brought up with. That's the mentality that we're created with. But what if we can source it from inside? What if we can start validating ourselves and adoring ourselves and appreciating ourselves for the small things and the big things, right? Assuming and knowing our inherent worth because we're divine souls, and assuming that, yes, there's going to be lessons to learn. And seeing yourself through the soft, loving eyes of an ideal parent, right? The universe, the creator. How the creator would actually see you is through nothing but love. The creator is not going to be harsh and judgmental and unkind to you. It's going to be nothing but love for you. And so why not treat yourself in that way? And what I noticed with myself is that it was very easy for me to find things that I had been doing that weren't so great, right? Areas where I wasn't quite measuring up. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't XYZ enough. And my mindset would immediately going into fix it. Okay, how can I make that better? How can I make that better? Then we get up here, we get into the mind. But what can happen when we start to cultivate self-love is we bring more energy into our hearts and we expand our hearts, and our heart is the magnet of our body that attracts everything to us. And so instead of looking for the things that I could fix about myself, I started looking for everything that I did right. And I started doing this practice. I call it the self-acknowledgement practice. Super simple. You can do it in a minute and it will change your life. I promise you that. What it is you take maybe a minute. So one of my clients takes the subway home from work every day. So I told her, I was like, okay, every single day when you get on the subway, I want you to do the self-acknowledgement practice. And I want you to take a minute and reflect on the past 24 hours and acknowledge yourself for the things that you did well. Small things or big things. You could say, I'm so proud of you for getting up this morning when you didn't really feel like it. I'm so proud of you for going to the gym. I'm so proud of you for not being reactive when your coworker said something snarky, right? Noticing yourself and validating yourself. Because oftentimes we're so starved for that validation when we can give it to ourselves. And then imagine what a strong vessel this creates for you. If you've done any of my work before, you know I talk about how everything we want to manifest already exists, right? Quantum physics shows us that. But we have to have the vessel, we have to have the capacity to hold it, or else we won't be able to receive it. What self-love does is it strengthens your vessel, it strengthens your ability to receive it. And part of that is this inner dialogue. And when we start to cultivate this self-acknowledgement practice, we start to see that. And what I saw with myself is that as I started to acknowledge myself more, I stopped being as critical of myself. I stopped being as critical of other people. It honestly, truly rewired the way that I was speaking to myself internally. Because oftentimes that internal dialogue is not something we've been like, okay, sign me up for like this model of internal dialogue. What it is it's your parents typically, it's your caregivers, it's the people you grew up with, maybe significant teachers that you had or siblings, and how they spoke to you, which was passed down to them from their caregivers. We oftentimes don't necessarily want that, right? We want to choose how we view ourselves. We want to choose how we look at ourselves. And so that is one of the primary ways to start rewriting this internal dialogue. So the second piece I thought about with self-love is self-devotion. And this is truly devoting yourself to the things that you want to create in your life. So if you've heard me talk before about devotion versus discipline, right? Oftentimes in society, people are like, you need to be more disciplined, right? You need to wake up at 5 a.m. and go on a run and la, 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 right? Discipline feels very punitive. Truly, like you get disciplined for doing something wrong. I don't like that. I like devotion. Devotion is I am devoted to myself. I am devoted to the universe. I'm devoted to my higher calling. And devotion is an energy of love. You're pulled by your love for something. I show up for what I love because I'm in love with loving it, not because I'm forced to do it. Right? One of my clients told me, she's like, I was thinking about what you said about devotion versus discipline. And she's like, I didn't feel like working out, but I did because I was devoted to my health. And I was like, yes, that's it. That's exactly it. We're devoted to ourselves rather than trying to discipline ourselves into being something. Why not view ourselves as someone who's worth loving and caring for and then devoting to that? Self-devotion, what it really is doing the things you say you're going to do that matter to you, showing up for your dreams, keeping your word to yourself, not being around people who make you feel like crap. Clearing out your old patterns, clearing out your old triggers, clearing out your old fears, because you're devoted to loving yourself. It's really leading yourself and being that leadership that you want. You could kind of think of this whole practice as if you were your own ideal parent, the most perfect parent in the world. You don't have to think of your own parent. I'm saying think of like the most perfect parent that doesn't even really exist. How would you treat yourself then? How would you talk to yourself? It'd be nothing but love. So the second one is that self-devotion. And that's really, do your actions align with what you say is important to you and what you want in life? Or do your actions align with how you're feeling in the moment? And it's not that we don't honor our feelings, but it's that we keep in mind that what I'd rather have 5 years from now or a year from now is more important to me than me watching this episode of Netflix right now. That's what self-devotion is it's allowing yourself to create the life that you really want and actually taking steps toward it. So then the next one is self-expression. And this is allowing yourself to speak up for yourself, allowing yourself to speak your truth, allowing yourself and accepting who you truly are, and then expressing it to the world. Because when we stop judging ourselves, we will stop assuming that everyone else is judging us too, and people will actually stop judging us. Because when we get off the frequency of judgment, we stop attracting people on the frequency of judgment. Self-expression requires that we accept and love and acknowledge ourselves first, because if not, we're going to constantly be like trying to adjust and fit ourselves into a box to make other people happy. We're not going to feel liberated to actually express ourselves. So you allow yourself to be heard, your voice to be expressed. You say, you know what? I know I have an important message to share and I'm willing to share it, right? One of my clients told me that she was having a conversation with her uncle and she had just gotten a new dog. And he said, well, I don't really like dogs. And she was like, okay, well, that's okay. Like, I am really happy that I got a dog. You know, she expressed herself. She wasn't unkind. She wasn't mean, but she expressed that she wants a dog. She loves a dog. His truth doesn't have to be your truth. And that's part of this self-expression, is recognizing I can express myself and I don't expect anything of the other person. I don't expect them to agree. I don't expect them to be anything that they're not, but I still get to express myself. There's room for all of us to express ourselves. You stop performing. You stop contorting yourself to meet the expectations of others. And what happens when we do that is the people who are not meant for us fall away, and the people who are meant for us, there's space for them. There's room for them. There's the frequency for them. That's number 3, self-expression. The last thing I want to say about self-expression is that when you begin to express yourself authentically, people are drawn to your presence. There was this study done in Europe somewhere, I don't remember exactly where, and they measured the frequencies emitted from the human body. And everyone always thought love was the highest expression. What they found is that there is actually a frequency that's 400 times more magnetic, and that's the frequency of authenticity. Because what is authenticity? It's acceptance and loving of the self. It's saying, you know what? I know my truth and I'm comfortable expressing my own truth. And that is attractive. We are so attracted to people who are authentic. Even if they're completely different from us, we have respect and we have admiration, because we all know it takes courage to be authentic. It takes courage to put yourself out there in a space where you could experience judgment. That's number 3. Number 4 is self-trust. So this is so important and such an important aspect of self-love. And what it is it's you stop abandoning yourself. You start cultivating a relationship where you show up for yourself. You start listening to your own inner guidance over other people's advice or other people's beliefs. You tune into your intuition and your inner knowing before going to 75 different friends and be like, what do you think? What do you think his text message means? What do you think I should reply? No, you tune in and you say, what's the truth for me? Because they're going to tell you their truth. They don't know their truth. Self-trust is cultivated when we lean back and we rely on ourselves and we act in a way that aligns with the vision that we want, right? It kind of relates to self-devotion that we talked about. You follow through on the things that you say you're going to do. You are there for yourself. You are your own safety net. I had a client, and what she shared with me is that she had just had this argument with her family, and she felt a lot of pain from this argument, right? Which is very common to happen over the holidays. And what I told her is, she was like, how do I fix this? How do I fix this relationship? And I was like, well, we cannot change other people. We can only change ourselves. What you can do for yourself in this moment is be there for yourself. Be that safe space for your own emotions. Be that safe space to support yourself, to validate your own feelings, to nurture yourself. Right? And self-trust is actually related very much to number 5, which is self-nurturing, which I'll get into more in a moment. But self-trust is when you learn that you can trust fall into yourself because you know that your word means something to you, that you will follow through on the things that you say you'll do, and you don't do things that are harmful to you. You don't allow yourself to spend time with people who are harmful to you. right? Self-trust is this whole deep relationship. So then the last one I want to share is self-nurturing. And this one I think is incredibly powerful as well. Honestly, these are all so important. But self-nurturing is being that internal parent to yourself. It's how you speak to yourself when you have those uncomfortable emotions and how you show up for yourself when you have those uncomfortable emotions, right? Is it that when I have an uncomfortable emotion, I try to stuff it down or ignore it or burn through it and blast through it by focusing on my work or going to the gym? Or is it that I take a moment and I acknowledge that feeling and I say, yeah, you know what that person said, it did hurt me. And I'm sorry you feel hurt. And I love you and I'm here for you. What do you need? We can have that kind of relationship with ourselves where we give ourselves space. And what one of my really good friends shared with me is that she's in a new relationship and it's an incredible, incredible relationship. And she said that something she does differently in that relationship than she ever did in the past is that whenever she has a trigger come up, she feels hurt, she feels pained by something her partner does, what she will do is she's like, I'll take time for myself. And she's like, and I'll really reflect on how I actually feel. I will nurture myself. And she's like, sometimes I'll see that it had literally nothing to do with him. And it was all to do with me and me needing my own support. We all have internal feminine energy and internal masculine energy. And they're both so important. And the masculine energy is the one that can hold you when you are struggling, that can be there for you, that can help you and say, you know what? I know you're hurting, but I'm here for you. What do you need? What can I do for you? Do you want me to put on a movie? Do you want me to get your jammies, right? Do you want to journal? Do you want to talk about it? You can have that conversation with yourself. It's about nurturing those parts of yourself that are hurt rather than casting them out or stuffing them down. What I want you to think about, I know that I shared a lot of different pieces to this, is even if you take one thing that I shared today, you don't have to implement all of this at once. Maybe you take the self-acknowledgement practice. Maybe you start showing up for yourself a little more consistently on the things that matter to you. Maybe you start nurturing yourself a little bit more. What you will notice is your entire relationship with yourself will change from that simple 2 mm shift, right? I've shared this before that when a plane takes off, if its nose is off by 2 mm, then it will end up hundreds of miles away from its desired destination. And that's the same thing for you, is when you take one of these simple practices and you implement it, over the days, the weeks, the months, the years, you're going to be in a completely different timeline. So you don't have to take all this information and implement it today, but think about this and how can you be that loving person to yourself? And if you find that you're constantly judging and shaming yourself, why? Right? Who taught you that? Where did that come from? Because it doesn't need to be that way. So I hope that you loved this episode. I've loved doing this with you. I just recently released a new private audio series called Match for Miracles, and it's completely free and it guides you through deeper into how to rewire the subconscious mind and the nervous system to become more of a match for miracles. So if in 2026, focusing on manifestation is one of your goals, if you have some big things that you want to call in, this audio series is the perfect place to check it out. I will include the link in the show notes for you. You can also message me the word match on Instagram and you'll get a link for it. So I hope you have loved this, and I will see you in the next episode.